My mother always told me blood is thicker than water, but she never warned me how expensive that blood could get. When I peeled back the retaped seal of my daughter's envelope, my stomach dropped. $4,200, every cent Lily had earned from 3 years of babysitting, was gone. The thief hadn't broken a window. She had sat at our Sunday dinner table 2 days ago, eating pot roast and smiling while she stole my child's future. My life as a property manager was defined by other people's emergencies. A burst pipe on the 3rd floor, a broken elevator in the West Tower, a noise complaint that escalated into a shouting match in the lobby. I spent 40 hours a week absorbing the stress of strangers, smoothing over cracks in drywall and temperaments, ensuring that the building standing under my care remained upright and functional. It was a job that required a thick skin and an obsessive attention to detail. Traits I had honed not in a classroom, but in the crucible of my own childhood. But when I came home, I wanted the noise to stop. My sanctuary was a 2-bedroom apartment in a complex I did not manage, a place where the only problems were my own. And for the last 3 years, the brightest light in that apartment had been my daughter, Lily, at 14. Lily was an anomaly. While her friends were consumed by the immediate gratification of social media likes and fast fashion, Lily played the long game. She had a dream that was geographically precise: Paris. Specifically, a 10-day educational tour sponsored by her school's French club. The cost was staggering for a single-income household like ours, $4,200, but I had made a deal with her when she was 11. If she saved the bulk of it, I would cover the logistics, the passport, the walking shoes, and the spending money. I expected her to last a month. Instead, she lasted 3 years. She babysat the neighbors' toddlers on Friday nights when she could have been at the movies. She walked the miller's neurotic golden retriever in the rain. She saved birthday checks and holiday cash, funneling every stray dollar into her France fund. She kept the majority of the cash in a thick, manila envelope taped to the back of her closet drawer, and a smaller portion in a youth checking account we had opened together at the local credit union. She liked the physical sensation of the cash, the way the envelope grew heavy in her hand. It was her measure of progress. By last Tuesday, the count stood exactly at $4,200. She had done it. I remembered standing in her doorway, watching her recount the bills for the 3rd time. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and pride. "I did it, Mom," she said. "You did," I answered, leaning against the doorframe, feeling a lump in my throat. "You really did." That pride was a tangible thing. It felt like a shield. I thought we were safe. I thought that because we had done everything right, because she had worked hard, and I had supported her, that the universe would honor the contract. I was naive. The unraveling began, as so many family tragedies do. At a dinner table, my mother, Marlene, insisted on Sunday dinner. It was a ritual that oscillated between comforting and claustrophobic. Marlene lived 20 minutes away in the house I grew up in, a place that always smelled faintly of potpourri and old dust. She was a woman who wore her martyrdom like a brooch, always visible, always sharp. That Sunday, however, she was different. She was warm, solicitous. She made pot roast, Lily's favorite, and actually listened when Lily talked about her French conjugations. "So, the trip is really happening," Marlene said, spooning more gravy onto Lily's plate. "I can't believe my granddaughter is going to Europe. I have to turn the money in by the 1st of the month," Lily beamed. "Mrs. Gable said we need to lock in the airfare." Marlene paused, the spoon hovering mid-air. "The 1st of the month, that is coming up fast. Do you have to pay it all at once?" "Yeah, or I lose my spot," Lily said, mouthful of potatoes. $4,000, Marlene mused, looking at me. "That is a lot of cash to have lying around the house. Claire, are you sure it is safe?" "It is safe, Mom," I said, cutting my meat. "It is in a safe spot, and half is in the bank." "And the bank?" Marlene pressed, her eyes shifting back to Lily. "It is just a youth account, right? Can you withdraw that much at one time? I think so, Lily said. Mom is on the account too. Marlene nodded slowly. Well, that is wonderful. Just wonderful. You know, you are going to need a proper coat for Paris. It rains there. Cold rain. Not like here. I have a coat, Grandma, Lily said. Not a Paris coat, Marlene insisted, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I want to take you shopping. My treat. Just us girls. Maybe Tuesday after school. I felt a prickle of irritation. Marlene taking Lily shopping usually meant Marlene picking out things she liked and making Lily feel guilty if she didn't wear them. But Lily looked excited, and Marlene was being so nice. Sure, I said. Tuesday works. Good, Marlene smiled. I will pick you up from school. We will get ice cream. Looking back, I should have seen the questions for what they were. She wasn't making conversation. She was taking inventory. She was calculating liquidity. Tuesday came and went. Lily came home with a wool coat that was slightly too mature for her, charcoal gray and stiff. But she said she loved it. Marlene didn't come inside when she dropped her off. She just honked and waved, speeding away faster than usual. Wednesday was the day the world tilted. I was in the kitchen, trying to salvage a lasagna that I had left in the oven too long, when I heard a sound from Lily's room. It wasn't a cry. It was a sharp intake of breath, followed by a frantic rustling of paper. Mom. The single word carried a frequency of panic that made me drop the pot holder. I walked down the hall, wiping my hands on my jeans. Lily was sitting on the floor in front of her open closet. The manila envelope was in her lap. It looked deflated. What is it? I asked, my heart beginning to hammer a warning rhythm against my ribs. It's light, she whispered. What? The envelope. It feels light. She turned it over. The heavy packing tape I had used to seal the flap was there. But as I knelt beside her and looked closer, I saw it. The tape was layered. Someone had slit the original tape carefully with a blade and placed a fresh piece of clear Scotch tape over the cut. It was precise. It was surgical. If you were rushing, or if you were a 14-year-old girl trusting the sanctity of your own room, you would never notice. Open it, I said, my voice sounding hollow. Lily peeled back the tape. She reached inside. Her hand came out with a single $20 bill. The envelope should have held $2,500 in cash. Lily turned the envelope upside down and shook it. Nothing fell out. She looked at me, her face draining of color, her eyes filling with tears that refused to fall. I didn't touch it, she said, her voice trembling. Mom, I swear, I didn't touch it. I was saving it. I know, I said. I pulled her into me, wrapping my arms around her shaking shoulders. I know you didn't. My mind raced. Who had been in the apartment I had the locks changed 6 months ago? The landlord had a key, but he was a 70-year-old man who lived in Florida half the year. We had no cleaning lady, no babysitter. Then, the memory of Sunday dinner flashed in my mind. Marlene's questions. Do you have to pay it all at once? Is it safe? And then, Tuesday, Marlene picking Lily up from school. Marlene had a key. I had given her one 5 years ago for emergencies. A key she claimed she had lost 3 years ago. Check the bank account, I said, pulling away from Lily. Get your phone. Lily fumbled for her phone, her fingers shaking so hard she mistyped her passcode twice. She finally opened the banking app. She stared at the screen. Mom, I looked over her shoulder. The balance read $12.50. There had been a withdrawal on Tuesday afternoon. $1,700. I didn't do that, Lily cried, the tears finally spilling over. I was with Grandma. We were shopping. The pieces clicked together with the heavy, sickening sound of a prison door slamming shut. Tuesday afternoon, while Lily was trying on charcoal wool coats. Someone was at the bank. Stay here, I said. I need to make a call. I walked into the living room, my hands cold. I didn't call the police, not yet. I called Marlene. She answered on the second ring, her voice bright and cheery. Hello, darling. Did Lily model the coat for you? It is 100% wool. You know. Mom, I said, cutting her off. Have you seen Lily's envelope? There was a pause, a silence that stretched 2 seconds too long. What envelope? She asked. The pitch of her voice went up an octave. The money envelope, I said, keeping my voice terrifyingly calm. The one with her trip money. It is empty, and her bank account is drained. Well, I don't know why you are asking me, Marlene said, the cheerfulness replaced by instant defensiveness. I haven't been in your apartment. You have a key, I said. You told me you lost it, but I think you have it. I cannot believe this, she snapped. My own daughter, accusing me of theft, after I bought that beautiful coat, after I took her out for ice cream. Mom, someone withdrew the money from her account on Tuesday, while she was with you. Maybe she spent it, Marlene shouted. Teenagers lie. Claire, maybe she is on drugs. Have you checked her room for drugs? Stop it, I said. She was with you. How could she be at the bank? I am hanging up, Marlene announced. I am so hurt. I am physically shaking. You are cruel. Claire, just cruel. The line went dead. 5 minutes later, my phone pinged. It was a text from my Aunt Linda, Marlene's sister. Your mother just called me in tears. She says you accused her of stealing from her own granddaughter. I thought you were raised better than that. Apologize to her. She was already controlling the narrative. She was isolating me. It was a tactic I had seen her use on my father for 20 years, but I never thought she would turn it on me. I drove to the credit union the next morning as soon as they opened. I left Lily at school, eyes puffy, wearing her old denim jacket because she couldn't bear to look at the wool coat. The teller was a young woman I didn't recognize, but the branch manager, Mr. Henderson, knew me. We sat in his glass-walled office. I need to know who made this withdrawal, I said, sliding the statement across the desk. My daughter says she wasn't here. Mr. Henderson tapped on his keyboard. He frowned. It was an in-person withdrawal. Countercheck. Do you have cameras? We do, he said. He looked uncomfortable. Claire, the teller who handled this is in the break room. Let me ask her. He came back 5 minutes later. He looked even more uncomfortable. The teller remembers the transaction, he said gently. She said a young girl came in with her grandmother. The grandmother did most of the talking. She said it was for a surprise gift for the mother, a car down payment. A young girl, I frowned. Lily was with her grandmother, but they were shopping. The teller said the girl looked quiet. She stood back. The grandmother had the passbook and the ID. Lily doesn't have a passbook, I said. We use the app. The grandmother had a passbook. Mr. Henderson said. It was an old one, from when the account was opened. I closed my eyes. Marlene had kept the original passbook. I had forgotten it even existed. So Marlene came in, I said, and she had a girl with her. The teller assumed it was Lily, Mr. Henderson said. She didn't ID the minor because the grandmother is a known authorized signer on the family trust accounts, even though she isn't on this specific youth account. The grandmother vouched for her. She said, "This is my granddaughter. We are in a hurry." But Marlene isn't on the youth account, I said. She isn't, Mr. Henderson admitted, his face reddening. The teller. She made a mistake. She saw the last name. She knows your mother. Your mother can be persuasive. Persuasive. That was one word for it. Marlene had bulldozed a 20-year-old teller using the weight of her personality and small-town familiarity. It wasn't Lily, I said. Lily was across town. If that is the case, Mr. Henderson said, stiffening professionally. This is fraud. We can launch an investigation. We will have to file a police report. I looked at the withdrawal slip on his screen. The signature was a scrawl. It didn't look like Lily's, but it was close enough to pass if you weren't looking. Let me handle it, I said, standing up. Claire, Mr. Henderson warned, that money is gone. I know, I said. I drove straight to Marlene's house. I didn't call first. I used my key, the one I actually had, and walked into the kitchen. Marlene was sitting at the table, organizing coupons. She didn't look up when I entered. She just snipped a coupon for detergent with aggressive precision. "I went to the bank," I said. She snipped again. "Good for you. The teller told me everything. You used an old passbook. You pressured the girl at the counter." Marlene put the scissors down. She looked at me, and her face changed. The mask of the victim dropped, replaced by a look of weary annoyance. "It was an emergency," she said flatly. "An emergency." I felt my voice rising, vibrating in my chest. "You stole $4,000 from a child. Mom, from Lily, for an emergency." "I borrowed it," she corrected. "I fully intend to put it back." "What emergency costs exactly $4,200, I demanded. "And why did you take the cash from her room too? You broke into my house." "I didn't break in," she scoffed. "I used the spare key. And I needed the cash because the bank transfer takes too long. They were going to shut off my power." "Claire." "And the water, and there were some other things." "What other things?" "Just debts." She waved her hand dismissively. "Your father left me with nothing. You know that. I have been struggling to keep this house afloat. Would you rather I be homeless? Would you rather your mother lives in a shelter?" "I would rather you asked me," I screamed. "I would rather you didn't steal from your granddaughter who worked for 3 years to save that money." "I am going to pay it back," she shouted back, standing up. "My God, Claire, you act like I am a criminal. I am expecting a check, a settlement. It is coming any day now." "What settlement?" "From an insurance thing, a car accident, years ago. It is finally coming through." She was lying. I could tell by the way she touched her necklace. A nervous tic she had had since I was 5. "Lily needs that money by the 1st, I said. "That is 10 days away." "I will have it," she said. "I promise. But you cannot tell Lily." I stared at her. "What?" "You cannot tell her I took it," Marlene said, her eyes widening with genuine panic. "It would break her heart. Claire, she looks up to me. She thinks I am special. If you tell her I borrowed it, she will think I am poor. She will worry." "She thinks she was robbed," I said. "She thinks a stranger broke into her room." "Let her think that," Marlene said. "It is better than her knowing her grandmother is having a hard time. Just tell her. Tell her the police are looking into it, and then, when I get the money, I will give it to you, and you can say the police found it." The level of delusion was breathtaking. She wanted me to gaslight my daughter to protect her ego. "No," I said. "I am not lying to her. Please." Marlene grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "Claire, please. For me. I am your mother. I changed your diapers. I paid for your braces. Just give me 2 weeks. I will fix it. I swear on your father's grave. I will fix it." I looked at her desperate face. I hated her in that moment. But I also felt that old, rusted hook in my gut. The obligation. The fear of severing the tie completely. "I want a repayment plan," I said, my voice cold. "In writing, today." "I can't give you dates." She pulled away, acting offended again. "I told you, I am waiting on a check." "Then text me," I said. "Text me exactly how much you took, and that you promised to pay it back. I want a record." "Fine," she spat. "If you are going to be so litigious about family business." I walked out. I sat in my car in her driveway and waited. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "I will help Lily with her trip as soon as I can. Things are tight right now, but I love her." It wasn't a confession. It wasn't a number. It was a vague, slippery promise that would hold up in no court of law. I drove home, feeling the bile rise in my throat. I had to go home and face Lily. I had to tell her something. I called my ex-husband, David, on the drive. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. She did what David asked, his voice sounding tinny over the car's Bluetooth. She cleaned her out. "David, $4,000. "Man," David sighed. That is classic Marlene." "I need you to help me confront her," I said. Or help me replace the money. Lily can't lose this trip. Whoa, Claire, David said. I can't drop $4,000. I just paid for the braces. Remember? And honestly, maybe you should just let it go. Let it go. I nearly drove off the road. If you make a big deal out of it, it is going to blow up the family, David said. Lily loves Marlene. Do you really want to be the one to destroy that relationship? Just cover it. Put it on a credit card. Marlene is old. She is probably losing it. She isn't losing it, I said. She is manipulative. It is just family drama. Claire, don't let it ruin Lily's year. Just fix it. You are good at fixing things. He hung up. I was alone. I pulled into our apartment complex. The lights were on in our unit. Lily was upstairs, probably refreshing her bank app, hoping it was a glitch. I sat in the dark car for a long time. I looked at the text message from my mother. I will help Lily. She wasn't going to help. I knew it in my bones. The settlement didn't exist. The money was gone. I made a decision then. I would not let Lily suffer for my mother's sins. I would not let her lose Paris because the adults in her life were broken, but I also wouldn't let Marlene get away with it. Not this time. I wiped my face, put the car in park, and walked up the stairs to start the war. The first installment for the trip was due at 5 o'clock on Friday. I paid it at 4:45. I sat at my kitchen table, the glow of my laptop screen illuminating the anxiety etched into my face. I pulled out my own credit card, a card I kept strictly for car repairs and dental emergencies, and typed in the numbers. I hesitated before hitting submit. That click transferred the debt from a phantom thief to my own name, $1,500. It was money I did not have, money that would sit there accruing 19% interest, but it bought us silence. It bought us time. When the confirmation email pinged, I closed the laptop and exhaled a breath I felt I had been holding for 3 days. Mom. I jumped. Lily was standing in the hallway, wearing her oversized hoodie. She looked small. The confidence she had carried all year, the swagger of a kid who had earned her way, was gone, replaced by a jittery suspicion. Is it done? She asked. It is done, I said, forcing a smile that felt tight on my face. The deposit is paid. You are officially on the roster. But the money, she said, frowning. My account is still empty. How did you pay it? I had rehearsed this lie in the shower. It is just how the billing works, honey. The bank froze the youth account temporarily because of the irregularity, so I put it on my card, and when the bank clears up the error, we will pay off the card. It is just a liquidity thing. Liquidity. It was a word that sounded adult and boring, designed to make a teenager's eyes glaze over. It worked. Lily nodded, though the worry didn't leave her eyes. Okay, she said. But we are going to get it back, right? The bank will fix it. We are handling it, I said. I promise. That night, I started the file. I created a new folder in the Notes app on my phone and titled it simply Marlene. It felt like a betrayal, a cold, administrative act against the woman who had given birth to me, but I forced myself to do it. I screenshotted the text message she had sent, the vague promise to help Lily. I logged the date and time of our phone call. I wrote down the exact amount missing, $4,200. If this was a war, I needed ammunition. By the middle of the next week, the enemy began a new offensive, aggressive benevolence. I came home from work on Tuesday to find Marlene's car in my driveway. She was hauling grocery bags out of her trunk, staggering under the weight of them. My neighbor, Mrs. Higgins, was out watering her hydrangeas and watching with interest. Mom, what are you doing? I asked, getting out of my car. Just helping out, Marlene announced loudly, her voice pitched for an audience. I know things are tight for you right now. Claire, I didn't want Lily to go without... She thrust a bag at me. It was heavy. I looked inside: organic strawberries, expensive cuts of steak, brand-name cereals. It was easily $200 worth of groceries. I don't need groceries, I hissed, leaning in close so Mrs. Higgins wouldn't hear. I need the money you took. Don't be ungrateful, Marlene whispered back, her smile fixed and terrifying. I am trying to be a good grandmother. Lily needs protein. She looks pale. She breezed past me, waving at Mrs. Higgins. Hello? Janet. Just stocking the fridge for my girls. You know how single moms struggle. I felt the heat rise up my neck. I followed her inside. You cannot do that, I said, slamming the door. You cannot come here and perform charity with money you stole from us. Marlene began unpacking the steaks, ignoring me. I didn't steal. I borrowed. And this, she gestured to the food, is interest. I am taking care of you. Why is that so hard for you to accept? Because you are telling the neighbors I am broke. Well, aren't you? She asked, pausing with a carton of eggs in her hand. If you weren't broke, you wouldn't be so hysterical about a little loan. She left 10 minutes later, leaving me with a fridge full of food I couldn't swallow, and a daughter who came home from school to find her grandmother had left a $20 bill on her pillow with a note for ice cream. Love, Grandma. It was psychological warfare. Marlene was buying Lily's affection with scraps of the fortune she had taken from her. The humiliation didn't stop at the driveway. 2 days later, I ran into Patty Miller at the gas station. Patty was an old friend of the family, the kind of woman who communicated primarily through prayer requests on Facebook. Claire, she called out, pumping gas into her minivan. Oh, honey, I was just thinking about you. Hi, Patty, I said, trying to look busy with my own pump. She walked over, her face arranged in a mask of pity. Your mom told me about the situation. I just want you to know, there is no shame in asking for help. The church has a food pantry on Thursdays. I froze. Excuse me. Marlene said you were having a really tough time, Patty said, lowering her voice. That she had to step in to make sure Lily could still go on that trip because of your debts. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Marlene wasn't just hiding her crime, she was rewriting reality. She was painting me as the irresponsible failure, so that when the truth came out that the money was gone, everyone would assume I was the one who lost it. Patty, I said, my voice shaking. I am not in debt. I am fine. Patty patted my arm. Of course you are. It stays between us. But Marlene is a saint. Isn't she putting her own retirement on hold to help you? I drove home in a blind rage. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive to Marlene's house and tear the siding off. But when I walked through the door, I saw Lily sitting at the kitchen table. She wasn't doing homework. She was staring at the wall. Mom, she said, without looking at me. Why did Mrs. Gable ask me if I needed a scholarship application today? I dropped my keys. What? She pulled me aside after French class. She said she heard our financial situation had changed and there are hardship funds available. Lily turned to look at me, her eyes red. Mom, are we poor? Did you lose your job? The air left the room. Marlene's campaign had reached the school. I pulled out a chair and sat down across from her. The lie about the billing cycle evaporated. I couldn't let my daughter believe her mother was a failure, or that our life was collapsing because of my incompetence. I had to protect her from the shame, even if it meant exposing the wound. Lily, look at me, I said. We are not poor. I did not lose my job, and we do not need a hardship fund. Then where is the money? She asked, her voice cracking. Why is Grandma bringing us groceries? Why is everyone acting weird? I took her hands. They were cold. I need to tell you the truth, and I need you to listen. Okay. She nodded. The money didn't get lost by the bank, I said slowly. Someone borrowed it, without asking. Lily's brow furrowed. Who? Grandma. The word hung in the quiet kitchen. Lily pulled her hands back as if I had burned them. No, she said. Grandma wouldn't. She took me to buy the coat. She used the old passbook, I said gently. She went to the bank while you were trying on the coat. That is why the seal on your envelope was broken. She took the cash, too. But why? Lily looked like she was trying to solve a math problem that had no answer. She has money. She has her house. She buys me stuff. Grandma has trouble with money sometimes, I said. She got into a tight spot. She told me she intends to pay it back, but she shouldn't have done it. It was wrong. I watched the realization settle over her. It wasn't anger. It was something worse. It was the crumbling of a pillar. Lily had always viewed Marlene as a source of unconditional treats and comfort. A soft place to land when I was being the strict parent. Now, that safety was tainted. Did she steal it? Lily whispered. She calls it borrowing, I said. But she didn't ask. So, yes. Lily looked down at the table. Does she not want me to go to France? Oh, honey, no. I reached for her again. She loves you. People can love you and still do bad things because they are scared or desperate. This has nothing to do with you. You did nothing wrong. You earned that money, and I'm going to make sure you get to go. Okay, I am handling it. Lily didn't cry. She just nodded, looking older than 14. Okay, that night, she took the charcoal wool coat out of her closet and put it in the back of the hallway closet. Behind the winter blankets, she didn't want to see it. The next day, I texted Marlene. I know what you are telling people. Stop it. And I need the first payment, $500. Today, she didn't reply for 6 hours. Then, at 8 o'clock at night, she showed up at my door. She looked frazzled. Her hair wasn't as perfectly coiffed as usual, and she was wearing a tracksuit I had never seen. She didn't have $500. She handed me an envelope containing $200 in 10s and 20s. The bills smelled like stale perfume. It is all I could get, she said. Not meeting my eyes. I sold my sapphire ring, you know, the one your father gave me for our 10th anniversary. I sold it to a pawn shop to help you. To help me, I repeated, staring at the pathetic stack of bills. Mom, you owe Lily $4,000. This is $200. I am doing my best, she snapped. I have cash flow issues. The settlement is delayed. The lawyer said maybe next week. What lawyer? I asked. What is the firm's name? I don't have to be interrogated, she said, backing away. Here is $200. I will bring another 100 on Friday. I am chipping away at it. You should be thanking me for the effort. She got in her car and drove off. I looked at the money, $200. It was a drop in the ocean. And the story about the ring, I knew for a fact she had lost that ring in a hotel in Vegas 10 years ago. She was lying effortlessly, reflexively. I went back inside and decided to stop waiting for her to tell me the truth. I needed to find out where the money had actually gone. A sudden emergency of $4,000 usually meant a burst pipe or a medical bill. But the desperation Marlene was showing the groceries, the lies, the trickling cash suggested something chronic. I started digging. I knew Marlene's social security number. It was written on my birth certificate documents, and I had helped her file her taxes 3 years ago. It was a violation of privacy to check her credit, but she had violated my home. So I considered us even. I paid $20 to an online background check service. The report that came back was a sea of red. There was no settlement pending. There were, however, 3 credit cards maxed out to their limits. And there was a personal loan taken out 4 months ago from a company called Quick Cash Now. The principal was $5,000. The interest rate was 240%. She had already defaulted on the first 3 payments. My stomach churned. The emergency wasn't a sudden event. Marlene had been drowning for months, maybe years. She had taken out a predatory loan to pay off credit cards, and now the sharks were circling. She had stolen Lily's money not to fix a problem, but to plug a hole in a sinking ship. But where was the money going? Marlene's house was paid off. She drove a 10-year-old Buick. She didn't travel. She didn't drink. I kept looking. I went to her Facebook page, which I usually avoided. I scrolled back through months of posts about cats and weather. Then I saw it. 6 months ago. She had started posting photos with a woman named Brenda. Lunch with my financial mentor. The caption read, "Learning how to build real wealth." I clicked on Brenda's profile. It was locked, but her cover photo was a group of women standing in a hotel conference room, holding up certificates. The banner behind them read, "Abundant Circle Empowering Women to Retire Rich." I zoomed in. The women looked like Marlene older, well-dressed, smiling with a desperation that didn't quite reach their eyes. I did a search for Abundant Circle. The first result was a consumer protection warning. Pyramid scheme targeting seniors. Gifting circle. Illegal investment structure. I sat back in my chair. The room spinning. Marlene hadn't spent the money on bills. She hadn't spent it on a medical emergency. She had invested it. She had thrown my daughter's hard-earned savings into a black hole because a woman named Brenda told her she could get rich. And the worst part, the friend Brenda, I recognized the last name, Brenda Lasky. Her son ran a local debt collection agency. Marlene wasn't just being scammed. She was being harvested by people who knew exactly how to squeeze blood from a stone. I needed to secure Lily's spot on the trip before the house of cards collapsed completely. I made an appointment with Mrs. Gable, the trip coordinator. We met in her classroom during her planning period. Mrs. Gable was a kind woman with chalk dust on her cardigan, but she was strict about logistics. "I appreciate you coming in, Claire," she said, looking at her ledger. "I see the deposit was paid. Thank you." "I wanted to ask about the remaining balance," I said. "Is there any flexibility? Can we do a payment plan? Maybe 3 installments instead of one lump sum?" Mrs. Gable frowned. "Technically, the travel agency requires full payment 30 days before departure. That is the hard deadline, if the money isn't there. The ticket is released. We have 5 kids on the wait list. Claire, if Lily can't go, one of them will take her spot immediately." The wait list. The pressure. If I missed a payment, Lily wouldn't just be delayed. She would be replaced. "We will make it," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. I just wanted to know my options. "Okay," Mrs. Gable said. "But please, keep me posted. I know. I heard things have been difficult." She gave me a sympathetic look, the same pity I had seen on Patty's face. Marlene's narrative was everywhere. I left the school and drove straight to Marlene's house. It was time to stop being the daughter. I found her in the garden, deadheading petunias. She looked up, smiling as if nothing was wrong. "Claire, look, the blooms are coming in beautifully. I know about quick cash now," I said. The shears slipped from her hand. "I don't know what you are talking about. I know about the loan, Mom, and I know about the abundance circle. I know you gave them money." Her face went pale, then flushed a deep, angry red. "You have been spying on me. That is illegal." "Stealing from your granddaughter is illegal," I shouted. "You didn't borrow that money for bills. You gave it to a scammer." "It is not a scam," she shrieked. "It is a leverage system. Brenda has made $40,000. I am just on the entry tier. Once I recruit 2 more people, I get my payout. That is the settlement I told you about." "There is no payout. Mom, it is a pyramid scheme. The money is gone." "You don't understand finance," she spat. "You always were small-minded, just like your father, afraid to take a risk. I am not giving you another dime," I said, "and I am not letting you near Lily's money ever again. I want the $3,500 you still owe, now." "I can't give it to you," she cried. "It is invested if I pull out now. I lose everything. I just need a little more time. In fact—" She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a wheedle. "If you could just loan me another 1,000, I could buy a second seat at the table. That doubles my payout speed. I could pay Lily back next week, with interest, double the money. Claire," I stared at her. She was asking me to fund the scam that had already robbed us. She was an addict, chasing a high that didn't exist. "No," I said. "Absolutely not." Marlene's face hardened. The mask of the loving grandmother evaporated completely. "You are ungrateful," she hissed. "After everything I have done for you, I babysit for free, I buy her clothes, and this is how you treat me over a few $1,000s. "It is Lily's money," I said. "If you don't help me," Marlene said, her voice low and dangerous, I will tell Lily the truth. I already told her, I said. Marlene blinked. What? I told her you took it. She knows. You bitch, Marlene whispered. You turned her against me. You did that yourself, I said. But you can still fix this. If you start paying it back, real money, not stories. I don't have it, she screamed. I don't have it. Then sell the car, I said. Sell the silver, I don't care, but I am done negotiating. I reached into my bag and pulled out a piece of paper. I had typed it up at work. It was a promissory note. Simple, legally binding. It stated that Marlene Wood owed Lily Wood $4,200 to be repaid in weekly installments of $200, starting immediately. Sign this, I said, holding it out. Marlene looked at the paper. Then she looked at me. She threw her head back and laughed. It was a dry, cracking sound. You think I'm going to sign a contract with my own daughter? She scoffed. You think you can take me to court? I am an old woman. Claire, no judge is going to garnish my Social Security for a school trip. Sign it, I repeated. Or I will file a police report for identity theft. The bank teller remembers you. Mom, she remembers you pretending Lily was there. The laughter stopped. Marlene's eyes narrowed. She looked at the paper, then back at me. She didn't sign it. She didn't scream. She just turned around and walked back into the house, locking the door behind her with a distinct, heavy click. I stood in the garden, holding the paper. The silence from the house was absolute. It wasn't the silence of surrender. It was the silence of a woman who was done playing nice. That silence scared me more than the screaming. Marlene was cornered, and a cornered animal doesn't negotiate. It attacks. I got back in my car, my hands trembling. I had drawn the line in the sand. Now I had to wait for the tide to come in. The digital assault began on a Thursday morning, just as I was pouring my second cup of coffee. It wasn't a sudden explosion, but a steady, rhythmic buzzing of my phone against the granite countertop. I picked it up. A text from Aunt Linda. I just got off the phone with your mother. She sounds suicidal. Claire. Over money, really. Then a message from my cousin Mike, a man who hadn't spoken to me since Christmas 2 years ago. Family helps family. You don't call the police on your mom. Fix this. Then my godmother, Susan. She says you are trying to humiliate her in front of the whole town. She says you are keeping Lily from her. Lily will be fine without a trip to France, but she won't be fine without a grandmother. Think about what you're doing. I set the phone down, my hand trembling. Marlene had mobilized the troops. She had spun a narrative where I was the villain, the greedy daughter extracting blood from a poor, elderly woman, while she was the victim of my cruelty. She had weaponized our shared history, counting on the fact that I would be too ashamed to tell them the truth that she had stolen every dime her granddaughter possessed. The emotional weight of it was suffocating. It felt like the heavy, wet wool of a winter coat dragging me down. I wanted to text them back. I wanted to scream. She stole $4,200, but I knew it wouldn't matter. In our family, the hierarchy of respect placed mothers at the top. Regardless of their sins, to question the matriarch was to commit heresy. I went into the living room. Lily was there, her backpack slumped against the sofa. She was on her phone, scrolling through a babysitting app. I picked up a shift for the Johnsons on Friday night, she said without looking up. And Mrs. Miller needs someone for Saturday morning. That is another $80. I looked at her. She had dark circles under her eyes. Her math textbook was open on the coffee table, untouched. No, I said. Lily looked up, startled. What? You are not taking the Friday shift, I said. And you are not working Saturday morning. But I have to, she said, her voice rising in panic. I did the math. If I work every weekend until May, and if I sell my bike, I can make back about $600. It helps, Mom. It is not your job to fix this, I said, sitting down next to her. I closed the babysitting app on her screen. You are 14. Your job is to study for your math test and sleep. I am the parent. I carry the burden. Not you. But you are stressed, she whispered. I can hear you pacing at night. I am handling it, I said, smoothing her hair. We are going to be okay. But I need you to just be a kid. Please. She leaned into me, and I felt her body relax. The tension of the last week momentarily suspended. I was protecting her from the work, but I couldn't protect her from the truth. The next day, I went looking for a lifeline. I remembered something from years ago, when my father died. He had left a small cache of savings bonds. Most were used for the funeral, but I distinctly remembered one Series EE bond issued in Lily's name. It was only $50 at face value, but it had been maturing for 14 years. It wouldn't be much, maybe $100, but every cent counted now. I knew where Marlene kept the important papers. She had a fireproof lockbox in the linen closet of her house. I still had my key. I drove over there while she was at her financial workshop. I let myself in. The house was quiet, smelling of lemon polish and secrets. I went to the linen closet. The box was there. I opened it. Birth certificates, the deed to the house, my father's death certificate. The bond was gone. I froze. I rifled through the papers again. Nothing. I waited for Marlene. She arrived an hour later, looking flushed and manic. She stopped when she saw me sitting at her kitchen table. You broke in, she said. I used my key, I said. Where is the savings bond Dad left for Lily? Marlene didn't blink. What bond? The Series EE bond. I saw it 5 years ago. It was in the blue envelope. Oh, that, she waved a hand, walking to the fridge. That was never real. Claire. It was just a novelty thing. I threw it out years ago. It was worthless. Bonds aren't novelty things, I said, and you don't throw money away. It must have been cashed years ago then. She shrugged, pouring herself iced tea. I don't remember. Why are you harassing me over pennies? Because it was Lily's, I said. I left and drove straight to the bank that had issued the bond. It was a long shot, but I had the serial number written down in an old baby book I kept in my safe. I sat with a banker named Mr. Lewis. I explained the situation, or a sanitized version of it. He typed the serial number into his system. It has been redeemed, he said. When I asked, 3 weeks ago. He said, my stomach dropped. Who redeemed it? I cannot give you the name of the person who cashed it without a subpoena. Mr. Lewis said apologetically, but I can tell you it was redeemed at our branch on 4th Street, and the system shows supporting documents were presented. Supporting documents. Usually a birth certificate and a parent's identification if the beneficiary is a minor. He explained, Marlene. She had taken Lily's birth certificate from the box. She had walked into a bank, pretended to be the custodial guardian, and cashed a bond that my dead father had meant for his granddaughter's future. It wasn't about the $100. It was the calculation. It was the deliberate forgery. I walked out of the bank feeling sick. This wasn't a desperate grandmother borrowing cash for a bill. This was identity theft. I needed professional help. I found a consumer rights attorney who offered a low-cost consultation. Her office was in a strip mall, sandwiched between a chiropractor and a vape shop. Her name was Sarah, and she looked tired but sharp. I laid it all out. The stolen cash, the bank withdrawal, the missing bond, the texts. Sarah listened, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she took off her glasses. You have a few options, she said. Civilly, you can sue her in small claims court for the $4,200 plus the value of the bond. It is a straightforward case. You have the withdrawal record and her admission via text. Vague as it is. And criminally? I asked. Identity theft is a felony, Sarah said. Using a minor's credentials to access funds. Forging signatures on bond redemptions. That is serious jail time. If you file a police report for the bond, the district attorney might pick it up. I don't want my mother in prison, I said, the words tasting like ash. I just want the money back. Then we start with a demand letter, Sarah said. We draft a formal legal document demanding repayment by a specific date. or we proceed with civil litigation. Sometimes the threat of a public lawsuit is enough to shake the money loose. She doesn't have the money, I said. She gave it to a pyramid scheme. Then we garnish her assets, Sarah said dispassionately. We put a lien on her house. We garnish her Social Security if applicable. Though that is harder, Claire. You have to decide. Is she your mother, or is she a thief? Because right now, she is banking on you treating her like a mother while she treats you like a mark. I left the office shaking. A lawsuit, a lien, these were weapons of war, not tools for family conflict resolution. But what other choice did I have? Marlene made the choice for me 2 days later. It was the school's spring choral concert. Lily was singing a solo. I arrived early to get a seat in the front row. I wanted her to see me. I wanted her to know I was there. 10 minutes before the curtain rose, Marlene walked in. She wasn't hiding. She was parading. She was wearing a bright red blazer and holding a massive bouquet of roses. She walked down the center aisle, waving to people she barely knew. She squeezed into the row right behind me. "Saved you a seat," she announced to no one in particular, though the seat next to her was empty. "Mom," I whispered, turning around. "What are you doing here?" "I am here to support my granddaughter," she said loudly. "She has worked so hard. We are so proud of her big trip, Paris. Can you believe it?" She leaned toward the woman next to her, a mother I knew from the PTA. "My Lily is going to France," I told her. "Grandma will make it happen. I just want her to see the world." The woman smiled politely. "That is very generous of you, Marlene." "Oh, you know," Marlene sighed, loud enough for 3 rows to hear. "It takes a village. Claire has been, well, having a hard time. But I stepped in, family first. I felt the heat radiate off my skin. She was doing it right in front of me. She was claiming credit for the trip she had almost destroyed, while simultaneously painting me as the charity case. When Lily walked onto the stage, she looked out into the audience. She saw me. Then she saw Marlene. Marlene stood up and waved the roses frantically. "That is my girl," she shouted. Lily froze. I saw the flash of embarrassment, the way her shoulders hunched. A few kids in the choir risers behind her giggled. Lily wasn't smiling. She looked like she wanted to disappear. After the concert, I tried to get to Lily, but Marlene was already there, boxing her in by the stage exit. "Beautiful," Marlene was saying, thrusting the roses at her. "Grandma is so proud. I told Mrs. Gable to put you on the front of the program." "Thanks," Lily mumbled, looking at her shoes. "Marlene," I said, stepping between them. "We need to go." "Don't be rude," Marlene snapped. "I am congratulating her." "You are embarrassing her," I said, grabbing Lily's hand. "Come on, Lil." We walked to the car in silence. Marlene stood on the sidewalk, watching us, looking like a rejected saint. "I hate her," Lily whispered as we buckled in. It was the first time she had ever said it. It broke my heart, not because she said it, but because Marlene had earned it. I dropped Lily at home and told her I had to run an errand. I drove back to Marlene's house. I didn't knock. I walked in. "Get out of my house," Marlene shouted from the living room. She was still in her red blazer, drinking wine. "You humiliated her," I said. "You stole her money, and then you went there and acted like her savior." "I am her savior," Marlene yelled. "I am the only one with any class in this family." I looked at the coffee table. There was a stack of mail there. Not Marlene's mail. My mail. I walked over and picked it up. "Don't touch that," she lunged. But I was faster. There were envelopes addressed to Claire Wood. But the address on them wasn't my apartment. It was Marlene's address. I flipped through them. A credit card offer, a privacy notice from my bank, and a red letter envelope from a collection agency. I tore open the red envelope. It was a past due notice for a credit card I didn't know I had. "What is this?" I held it up. The balance was $300. "It is nothing," Marlene said, breathing hard. "It is junk mail." "It is a credit card in my name," I said. "Sent to your house." I opened it to build your credit, she lied. Desperate. You have bad credit, Claire. I was helping you. You opened a card in my name. I was going to pay it off. How long, I asked. Looking at the stack. How long have you been intercepting my mail? I check your box sometimes, she admitted. You are never home. You leave it there for days. Someone has to be responsible. You changed the address, I said, realizing the truth. You put in a change of address form for me, didn't you? That is why I haven't seen a bank statement in 2 months. I am your mother, she screamed. I have a right to know your finances. I looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't just a desperate woman caught in a scam. She was a predator. She had been monitoring me, intercepting my life, calculating exactly how much she could bleed from me before I noticed. I left the mail on the table. I took the red notice with me. I am done, I said. I drove home. I sat in the dark living room. Doubt crept in, insidious and cold. Was I overreacting? Maybe she really did try to help. Maybe the card was a mistake. Maybe I was the bad daughter everyone said I was. Lily walked in for a glass of water. She saw me sitting in the dark. Mom. I am okay, I said. Just thinking. She stood there for a moment. Grandma asked me for my password once. I looked up. What? My banking password, Lily said softly. A few months ago, she said she wanted to deposit $20 for my birthday and the app was confusing. She asked for my login. What did you say? I said no. Lily said, I said I would just give her my account number. She got really mad. She didn't talk to me for a week. The doubt vanished. It shattered like glass. Marlene had tried to get digital access. When that failed, she used the passbook. When that wasn't enough, she stole the mail. It was a campaign. Thank you for telling me, I said. The next morning, I took the day off work. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I worked. I called the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. I placed a total freeze on my credit and on Lily's. No one could open a lemonade stand in our names without a PIN number, only I knew. I went to the post office. I filed a report regarding mail theft and rerouted everything to a P.O. box that Marlene didn't know about. I went to the bank and closed the youth account. I opened a new one at a completely different bank across town, one where Marlene didn't know the tellers and didn't have a history. Then, I sat down and typed the letter. To Marlene Wood. This letter serves as a formal demand for the repayment of $4,200 taken from Lily Wood's account on March 12th, as well as the immediate return of the value of the Series EE savings bond redeemed fraudulently on April 4th. Failure to repay the full amount by May 1st will result in the filing of a civil suit in small claims court. Furthermore, I have documented evidence of mail theft and identity misuse, which I have not yet turned over to the police. I prefer to settle this privately, but I will not hesitate to involve authorities if my daughter is not made whole. Do not contact Lily. Do not come to my home. Do not go to her school. All communication must be in writing. Claire. I sent it via certified mail. Return receipt requested. It cost $7. It felt like firing a cannon. 2 days later, I got a text. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a repayment plan. It was a photo. It was a picture of a handwritten ledger. The handwriting was Marlene's. August 2014, loaned Claire $500 for car repair. December 2016, paid for Claire's dental crown $800. July 2019, babysitting unpaid, 40 hours, $15 per hour, equals $600. The list went on. It detailed every birthday gift, every time she had picked up the check at lunch, every moment of generosity over the last decade. At the bottom, she had summed it up. Total owed by Claire, $12,500. Then, a text message followed. If you want to talk about debts, let's talk about debts. I have receipts. Claire, I have photos of you at that party in college. I have messages you sent me when you were depressed and hating your job. If you sue me, I will show everyone who you really are. I will ruin you. I stared at the screen. She was blackmailing me. She was threatening to expose my private vulnerabilities, my moments of weakness, to balance the scales of her theft. It wasn't about the money anymore. Marlene was willing to burn the entire family to the ground rather than admit she was wrong. I put the phone down. I didn't reply. I realized then that I wasn't just fighting for $4,000. I was fighting for my freedom, and I was going to win. The rumor mill in our town did not churn. It ground. It was a slow, mechanical pulverization of character that happened over coffee counters, in church pews, and in the checkout lines of the local grocery store. I had expected the backlash from my family. I was prepared for the texts from cousins I hadn't seen in a decade and the cold shoulders at Thanksgiving. But I had underestimated Marlene's reach, and I had severely underestimated her talent for spinning a narrative that made her the martyr and me the monster. It started with the subtle looks. When I walked into the local bakery to buy bread, the woman behind the counter, a friend of Marlene's from her bridge club, stopped smiling the moment she saw me. She took my cash with 2 fingers, as if my money were contagious, and didn't say, "Have a nice day." Then came the direct hits. Marlene wasn't telling people I was a thief. That would be too crude, too easily disproven. Instead, she was telling them I was drowning. She was whispering that I had made reckless investments, that I was buried in credit card debt, and that she, the ever-sacrificing grandmother, had been forced to liquidate her own assets to save Lily's school trip from my financial incompetence. She was using the truth of the missing money to hide the lie of who took it. The ripple effect hit my workplace on a Tuesday. I was a property manager, a job that required absolute trust. I handled rents, security deposits, and contractor payments. My reputation for financial fastidiousness was my currency. I was in the break room making tea when Gary, one of the leasing agents, walked in. He looked uncomfortable. "Hey, Claire," he said, shifting his weight. "I ran into your mom at the post office yesterday." My stomach tightened. "Oh, yeah, she seemed really stressed. She was asking me if the company offered salary advances. She said she was worried about you keeping the lights on." I set my mug down hard. Hot water sloshed over the rim, burning my hand, but I barely felt it. "Gary," I said, turning to face him, "my lights are fine. My finances are fine. I know. He put his hands up defensively. She was crying. "Claire, she said she gave you everything she had, and she just hopes you don't lose the apartment. I just wanted to check in. You know, as a friend." "I appreciate the concern," I said, my voice icy. "But my mother is confused." Gary nodded, but his eyes didn't quite believe me. Empathy is a powerful drug, and Marlene was a master distributor. Later that afternoon, I had a meeting with Mr. Vance, a client who owned 3 of the buildings I managed. We were reviewing the quarterly maintenance budget. He was usually a man of brisk efficiency, focused entirely on the bottom line. "The HVAC repairs came in under budget," I said, sliding the spreadsheet across the conference table. "We have a surplus of $2,000 in the reserve fund." "Mr. Vance looked at the numbers, then looked at me. He tapped his pen on the mahogany table. "Claire, I have been hearing some things," he said. "Regarding the building," I asked. "Regarding stability," he said vaguely. "This business requires a steady hand. Personal volatility can sometimes bleed into professional judgment if there are pressures you are facing, financial or otherwise. I need to know that the reserve funds are secure." I felt the blood drain from my face. He wasn't just asking about my life. He was insinuating I might embezzle. Marlene's whispers had reached a man who signed my paychecks. "Mr. Vance," I said, sitting straighter, my spine rigid. "My personal life is boring and solvent. The reserve funds are in a locked escrow account that requires 2 signatures, yours and mine. I assure you, your assets are safe." He held my gaze for a long moment before nodding. "Good. Let's keep it that way." I walked out of that meeting trembling. This wasn't just a family dispute anymore. Marlene was salting the earth. She was endangering my livelihood to protect her lie. If I lost my job, I wouldn't be able to pay for the trip, or the rent, or the food. I would become exactly what she said. I was destitute and dependent. I needed money. I needed to plug the hole she had blown in our lives before the ship sank. I called David. My ex-husband was a man who avoided conflict with the dedication of a monk avoiding sin. He paid his child support on time, but he treated emotional labor like a hazardous material. We met at a diner halfway between our apartments. I ordered black coffee. He ordered a milkshake. "I need help, David," I said. "Not for me, for Lily." "I told you, Claire," he said, sucking on the straw. "I don't have $4,000 lying around. The braces hit me hard, and my car needs a transmission." "I'm not asking for the full amount," I said. "But your mother-in-law stole from your daughter. Does that not make you angry? Doesn't that make you want to do something?" "Allegedly," David said. "It is not allegedly," I snapped. "I have the bank records. I have her admission in a text message. She took it." Okay, he soothed. "But going to war with Marlene. She is the grandma. She picks Lily up on Tuesdays. She buys her school supplies. She buys them with stolen money." I lowered my voice as the waitress passed. "David, she is running a smear campaign against me. She is telling people I am the thief. It is affecting my job." David looked out the window. "Look, Marlene is complicated. She has always been weird about money. Weird how, you know," he shrugged. "The way she deals in cash, the loans." I frowned. "What loans?" "Back when we were married," David said. "When I started the landscaping business, I was short on payroll one month. I asked her for a loan, $500. "You borrowed money from my mother?" I asked. "You never told me that." "She made me promise not to," he said. "She gave me the cash in an envelope, said it was our little secret, but then—" He paused, looking uncomfortable. "She made me pay it back with interest. Like, heavy interest. I ended up giving her $700 back, in cash. She said if I wrote a check, it would look bad for me." I stared at him. "She acted like a loan shark." "She called it a family banking fee," David said. "She has this little ledger she keeps. I saw it once. It had names in it. My name, your cousin Mike's name, even your dad's name, from way back." The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. Marlene hadn't just stumbled into a predatory scheme recently. She had been operating as a shadow banker for years. She leveraged family crises for profit, collecting leverage and interest under the guise of helping. The ledger I had seen in the text message wasn't just a list of gifts. It was her account book. She viewed every act of kindness as a transaction that created a debt. "David," I said, "you have to help me pay for this trip. If you don't, she wins, and Lily loses." "I can give you $500, he said, pulling out his wallet. "That is it. I am sorry. Claire, I really am. But I can't get in the middle of you two. She scares me." I took the $500. It was pathetic, but it was something. "She should scare you," I said. The next day, I went to pick Lily up from her babysitting job at the Millers. Mrs. Miller was a nice woman, an architect who always paid Lily on time. I was waiting in the driveway when Mrs. Miller came out to the car. "Hi, Claire," she said. "Can I ask you something odd?" "Sure," I said, bracing myself for another rumor. "Marlene stopped by last week," Mrs. Miller said. "While Lily was here, she brought Lily a snack." "Okay," I said slowly. "She was chatting with me in the kitchen." Mrs. Miller continued, "And she asked a lot of questions about how we pay Lily, specifically, if we paid in cash, and then she asked, this is the weird part, she asked if Lily had a lockbox at home. She said she was worried about Lily losing her earnings and wanted to buy her a safe." My hands gripped the steering wheel. "She asked if Lily had a lockbox?" "Yes, she was very specific. She asked where Lily usually kept her stash. I told her I thought Lily kept it in her closet, because that is where most teenagers keep things. but it felt probing. It wasn't just an impulsive theft of opportunity. Marlene had scoped the target. She had interrogated the employer to estimate the yield. She had confirmed the location of the cash. It was premeditated burglary committed by a grandmother who brought snacks as a cover. "Mrs. Miller," I said, "thank you for telling me. Please, if she comes by again, do not let her in." Mrs. Miller looked alarmed. "Is everything okay?" "No," I said, "but I am handling it." The net was tightening, but I found another hole in it the following morning. I called Mrs. Gable at the school to confirm the receipt of my credit card payment. "Oh, Claire," Mrs. Gable sounded surprised. "I'm glad you called." I was confused by the message. "What message?" "You called yesterday," she said. "Or someone who said you called, asking about the cancellation policy." I froze. "I didn't call yesterday." "The woman said she was Claire Wood," Mrs. Gable said, her voice dropping. "She asked what the deadline was to pull a student from the roster and get a partial refund. She said you were having second thoughts about Lily's maturity levels." Marlene. She was trying to cancel the trip. She was trying to get the refund sent to her, or simply destroy the trip so the debt would become moot. If Lily didn't go, Marlene didn't have to pay. "Mrs. Gable," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "That was not me. That was my mother. She is trying to sabotage this trip." "Oh my goodness," Mrs. Gable gasped. "I need to come in," I said. "Right now." I drove to the school. I sat in the administrative office and we set up a firewall. I created a password for Lily's account, a word Marlene would never guess: accountability. We flagged the file so that no changes could be made without photo ID presented in person. We removed Marlene from the emergency contact list. "I am so sorry, Claire," Mrs. Gable said, typing furiously. "I have never seen a grandmother do this." "She isn't a grandmother right now," I said. "She is a liability." I left the school and called Sarah, the attorney. "It is escalating," I told her. "She is impersonating me. She tried to cancel the trip to get a refund. She is slandering me to my clients." "Okay," Sarah said, her voice turning sharp. "No more nice demand letters. We go for the throat." We drafted the second letter together. This one didn't ask. It stated, "Re-notice of intent to sue for fraud, conversion, and identity theft, Ms. Wood. We have documented evidence that you have one. Impersonated Claire Wood to school officials in an attempt to defraud the travel agency. 2. Intercepted federal mail addressed to Claire Wood. 3. Redeemed a Series EE savings bond via forged signature and fraudulent use of a minor's birth certificate. 4. Embezzled $4,200 from a minor's custodial account. We have sworn statements from witnesses regarding your premeditation and your subsequent defamation of character against Claire Wood. Unless the full sum of $4,300, including bond value, is returned by Friday at 5 p.m., we will file a police report regarding the identity theft and mail fraud, and immediately proceed with a civil suit for damages. This is your final notice." I sent it by courier. I wanted her to sign for it. I wanted her to feel the weight of the paper. 24 hours later, Marlene texted, "I want to meet. Alone. No lawyers. No Lily. Just us." I agreed. We met at a park bench near the duck pond, a place where she used to take me to feed the birds when I was small. The nostalgia was a weapon she chose carefully. But I was wearing armor now. She was sitting on the bench, wearing the charcoal wool coat she had bought Lily. It was a grotesque visual claim of ownership. "You look tired," she said as I approached. "I am tired," I said, remaining standing. "Do you have the check?" "I can get the money," she said. She didn't look at me. She looked at the ducks. "I have a friend who can lend it to me, but I have conditions." "You are not in a position to set conditions," I said. "I am your mother," she snapped, her head whipping around. "I am always in a position to set conditions. Here is the deal. I give you the money, in cash, but you have to write a post, on Facebook, and you have to tell the family." "Tell them what?" Tell them that I helped you, she said. Tell them that I fronted the money for the trip because you were short, and that you are grateful, and you have to apologize to me for the misunderstanding about the bank account. You have to say it was a banking error that got blown out of proportion. She wanted me to launder her reputation. She wanted me to sell my integrity for the money she stole. No, I said. Claire, be reasonable, she hissed. My reputation is all I have. If people think I stole from a child, I am finished in this town. The abundance circle. They won't let me recruit if I have a scandal. That is the point. Mom, I said. The abundance circle is a scam. You are recruiting people into a trap. I am not going to help you do that. It is not a scam, she shouted, startling a nearby duck. It is a business and you are ruining it. I am not doing it, I said. I am not lying for you. You pay me back because you owe it, not because I trade my dignity for it. Marlene stood up. She stepped close to me. Her perfume was cloying. You think you are so high and mighty, she said, her voice dropping to a low, vicious register. You think you are so secure, but I know things, Claire. You don't know anything. I know you have exactly $3,400 available on your Visa card, she said. I know because I called the automated balance line yesterday. I have your social. Remember, I know you paid your Capital One bill 3 days late last month. I know you are one paycheck away from disaster. My blood ran cold. She wasn't just guessing. She was actively monitoring my credit limits. She was tracking my payment dates. She had my social security number, my mother's maiden name, which was her own name, my childhood address. She had all the keys to my life, and she was checking the locks every night. You checked my balance yesterday, I whispered. I check it every week. She smiled, a tight, triumphant grimace. I know what you can afford. You can afford to absorb this loss. You just don't want to. You are a monster, I said. I am a survivor, she corrected. And if you sue me, if you drag me into court, I will take out credit cards in your name so fast your head will spin. I will ruin your credit score forever. Who do you think the bank will believe, the elderly mother or the daughter with the spotty payment history? She was threatening to burn down my financial future. She was holding my identity hostage. You have until Friday, I said, my voice shaking so hard I could barely get the words out. And if you open one more account in my name, I will not just sue you. I will walk into the police station and I will not leave until you are in handcuffs. You wouldn't, she scoffed. You are too weak. You are too afraid of what people will think. Try me, I said. I turned and walked away. I felt her eyes boring into my back. I felt the weight of her knowledge, my social security number, my history, my secrets hanging over me like a guillotine blade. I got into my car and locked the doors. I sat there for a long time, watching the rearview mirror to make sure she wasn't following me. I had been trying to protect Lily from the ugly truth. I had been trying to keep the war contained to the adults, but Marlene had just proven that there were no boundaries. She would use anything, knowing or unknowing, to get her way. If I kept Lily in the dark, I was keeping her defenseless. Lily needed to know that her grandmother wasn't just borrowing money. She needed to know that her grandmother was dangerous. I drove home. I didn't turn on the radio. My hands were still shaking, but my mind was clearing. I walked into the apartment. Lily was at the kitchen table, studying for a French vocabulary quiz. She looked up, hopeful. "Did you get the money?" she asked. I sat down across from her. I took a deep breath. "No," I said, "and I need to tell you everything. Not the nice version, the real version." Lily put her pen down. She looked scared, but she looked ready. "Okay," she said. "Grandma isn't just bad with money." I began. "She has been watching us. She has been trying to hurt us to save herself." I told her about the impersonation at the school. I told her about the bond. I told her about the threats. I didn't use the words pyramid scheme or identity theft in a legal sense, but I explained the behaviors. I explained that Grandma was sick in a way that medicine couldn't fix, and that her sickness made her steal from the people she was supposed to protect. "She knows my social security number, too?" Lily asked, her voice small. "Yes," I said. "But we are going to change things. We are going to lock everything down. You are safe, but you have to be smart. You can never give her a piece of paper. You can never tell her a password. You can never trust her with a secret." Lily started to cry. It wasn't the frantic crying of a child who lost a toy. It was the grieving of a young woman who was losing the idea of a family. "Why does she hate us?" Lily asked. "She doesn't hate us," I said, pulling her into my lap like she was 5 years old again. "She loves herself more than she loves us, and that is a very lonely way to live." I held my daughter while she cried for the grandmother she used to have, and over her shoulder. I stared at the wall, my resolve hardening into steel. Marlene thought she could blackmail me into silence. She thought she could use my fear of scandal to control me. She was wrong. I was done being afraid. If she wanted a war, I would bring her a war, and I wouldn't stop until every cent was back in Lily's pocket, and Marlene was cut out of our lives like the cancer she was. We sat at the kitchen table until the tea in our mugs went cold. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was filled with the heavy, settling dust of a collapsed worldview. Lily was looking at me, her eyes swollen, waiting for me to explain how the person who baked her snickerdoodles could also be the person who stole her future. "I need you to understand something, Lily," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "This isn't about you not being smart, and it isn't about Grandma hating you. It is about a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" she asked, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. "There is a way that adults can use love as a tool," I said. "They create a feeling of specialness, a secret club just for the two of you. Don't tell Mom. It is our little secret. It feels exciting, right? Like you are being treated like a grown-up." Lily nodded slowly. She told me I was the only one who understood her financial stress. She said Mom is too rigid. "But you get it, Lily. You have a big heart." "Exactly," I said. "That is the hook. She made you feel responsible for her feelings. And then, once you felt responsible, she created an emergency." Lily looked down at the table. "She told me the school was going to change the rules. She said if we didn't move the money to a holding account immediately, the administration would seize it for administrative fees. She said she was protecting it." I closed my eyes. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. Marlene hadn't just bullied Lily. She had weaponized Lily's own fear of losing the trip to facilitate the theft. "I let her help me fill out the slip," Lily whispered. I stood right there. I didn't sign it, but I let her use the passbook. I felt weird about it, but she was rushing me. She kept looking at her watch. "That is how manipulation works," I said. "It relies on urgency. If you have time to think, you might say no. So they take away the time. They make you feel like the house is on fire, so you will throw your valuables out the window." Lily started to cry again. I thought she was safe. I thought grandmas were supposed to be safe." "I know," I said, moving my chair closer to hug her side on. "And she should be. It is okay to be sad that she isn't. You are grieving the grandmother you thought you had. That is a real loss, Lily, just as real as the money." We sat there for a long time. I didn't promise that everything would be fixed by morning. I didn't promise that Marlene would apologize. I just promised that I would be the wall that stood between Lily and the chaos. "From now on," I said, "we have boundaries, hard ones. You don't discuss money with her. You don't discuss passwords. If she asks you for anything, a signature, a favor, a secret, you tell me immediately. We are a team." She is outside the wall. "Okay," Lily said. She sounded tired, but for the first time in weeks. She didn't sound confused. The next morning, I went hunting. I needed to know exactly where the money had gone. The investment Marlene had screamed about in the park, the abundance circle, was my target. I went back to the Facebook profile of her friend, Brenda Lasky. Her page was still locked, but her cover photo had changed. It was a flyer. Financial Freedom Seminar, tonight only, the Marriott Conference Room, 7:00 p.m. Guests, welcome. I called a babysitter. I trusted a stern older woman named Mrs. Gable, no relation to the teacher, to stay with Lily. I put on a pair of glasses I rarely wore and a coat I had bought at a thrift store years ago. I wanted to look like a prospect, tired, hopeful, and slightly fraying at the edges. The Marriott conference room smelled of industrial carpet cleaner and cheap coffee. There were about 30 people there. Most were women, most were over 50, and all of them had a look of anxious anticipation that made my stomach turn. I took a seat in the back row. The presentation began with loud, upbeat music. A woman walked onto the stage. It was Brenda. She was charismatic, glowing with a tan that looked sprayed on, wearing a suit that looked expensive from a distance but cheap up close. "Who here is tired of debt?" she asked into the microphone. Every hand in the room went up. "Who here feels like the banks are rigged against them?" More hands. "I was like you," Brenda said, her voice dropping to a confidential hush. "I was drowning. Credit cards, medical bills. I was afraid to answer my phone, but then I found the circle." She clicked a remote. A slide appeared. It showed a diagram of a flower. It wasn't a pyramid. Technically, it was a lotus. You entered at the petal level by gifting $5,000 to the person in the center. Then, as you recruited more people, you moved toward the center yourself. When you reached the center, you received $40,000, a retirement payout, tax-free, she claimed, because it was a gift. "It is women helping women," Brenda said. "It is a community economy." I scanned the room, and then I saw her. Marlene was in the second row. She was nodding vigorously. She had a notebook open and was scribbling furiously. She looked manic. She looked like a woman who was drowning and had been thrown an anvil that she was convinced was a life raft. Then, Brenda called for testimonials. "Marlene," Brenda beamed. "Come on up, honey. Tell them about your journey." Marlene stood up. She smoothed her skirt. She walked to the microphone with a shaky kind of pride. "I joined the circle 2 months ago." Marlene told the room. Her voice trembled. "I was in a bad place. My family wasn't supporting me. I had debts, but the circle gave me hope. I made my initial gift, and I am already a blossom. I am so close to the center. I just need 2 more recruits. Just 2 more. And I will be free." She looked out at the audience, her eyes wide and wet. "You have to believe," she said. "You just have to find the money, sell something, borrow it, because the return is real. It is real." I felt bile rise in my throat. She was performing. It was a rehearsed speech, a mix of genuine desperation and calculated salesmanship. She had stolen Lily's money to buy her way into the blossom tier, and now she was trying to drag others in to get her payout. I didn't make a scene. I didn't stand up and scream, "She is a thief," that would get me kicked out. Instead, I took my phone out. I took photos of the slides, explaining the gifting structure, a classic Ponzi scheme layout. I took photos of Brenda. I recorded Marlene's speech. I grabbed a pamphlet from the back table that listed the buy-in tiers and the promise of guaranteed returns. I left before the lights came up. I sat in my car in the parking lot and looked at the pamphlet. The Abundance Circle wasn't just a local club. The fine print listed an LLC registered in Nevada. This was organized crime wrapped in toxic positivity. Marlene wasn't just a victim. She was an active recruiter. She was an accomplice. The next day, the war came to the school. I was at work when my phone rang. It was Mrs. Gable, the trip coordinator. "Claire," she said, her voice tight, "I need you to log into the portal immediately." "What is wrong?" "We just received a call from the travel agency's central billing office. A woman called claiming to be the primary account holder. She tried to initiate a chargeback on the credit card payment you made last week. She claimed the card was stolen." My blood ran cold. "Did they process it?" "No," Mrs. Gable said, "because you set up that password with me. The agency flagged it. They asked for the keyword. The woman on the phone, she was screaming. Claire, she couldn't provide it. She guessed Lily and France and then hung up. Marlene. She was trying to reverse the payment I had made on my own credit card. She wanted to trigger a fraud investigation on me to freeze the funds, hoping that in the chaos, the money might be refunded to a check that she could intercept. Or maybe she just wanted to burn it all down. If she couldn't have the money, no one could. "Mrs. Gable," I said. "Thank you. Please, keep that flag on the account. Do not remove it for anyone." "I won't," she said. "But Claire, you need to do something. This is dangerous." "I know," I said. "I left work early. I didn't go home." I drove to the police station. I had always thought filing a police report would feel dramatic. It didn't. It felt bureaucratic and sad. I sat at a metal desk across from an officer named Sergeant Miller. He looked bored until I laid out the documents: the copy of the cashed savings bond, the bank statement showing the withdrawal from the youth account, the letter from the bank confirming the signature irregularity, the log of the call to the school. "This is my mother," I said, my voice flat. "And you want to press charges?" Sergeant Miller asked, looking at the file. "Identity theft forgery. I want to file a report for identity misuse and unauthorized access of a financial instrument," I said carefully. "I want it on record. If she tries to open credit cards in my name, I need this report number to dispute them. And regarding the bond, yes, that was theft. It is a felony," he warned me. "If the DA picks this up, she could do time, or probation at the very least." "She stole from a child," I said, "and she is currently involved in a financial scam called the Abundance Circle. She is dangerous to herself and others." I signed the paperwork. I watched him stamp it. Case number 49,201. It was done. I had turned my mother into a case number. When I got home, I filed a second report online with the Federal Trade Commission regarding the Abundance Circle. Attaching the photos I had taken at the meeting, I named Brenda Lasky. I named the LLC. I named Marlene Wood as a recruiter. I wasn't protecting her anymore. I was nuking the ecosystem that was feeding on her. The fallout was immediate. Word got out that I had gone to the police. I didn't tell anyone. But small towns have ears, and Sergeant Miller's cousin probably played bingo with Aunt Linda. My phone exploded. "How could you?" Aunt Linda texted. "Your own mother. The police. She is 70 years old. You are heartless." My brother-in-law sent, "Money is money, but family is forever. You just destroyed the family." But then, a different kind of message came through. It was from my cousin Sarah, the one who lived 3 towns over and rarely came to reunions. "Hey Claire, I heard what happened. I just want to say, I believe you." I stared at the screen. "You do?" "Yeah," Sarah wrote back. "When Uncle Jerry died 3 years ago, there was an envelope of cash people gave for the catering, about $600. It went missing from the kitchen counter during the wake. Marlene was the only one in the room. She told me later she secured it for safekeeping, but she never gave it back. She said she used it to buy flowers for the grave, but there were no flowers. I never said anything because, well, she's Marlene." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just Lily. Marlene had been skimming off the top of our family's grief and trust for years. She stole from weddings. She stole from funerals. She stole from children. "Thank you," I texted back. "That means more than you know." The emotional validation was a relief, but it didn't solve the math problem. We were still short. The trip was 6 weeks away. I had paid the deposit on my credit card, but the interest was eating me alive, and there were incidental costs: luggage, meals, insurance that I couldn't cover. Marlene's promise of repayment was dust. I looked around my apartment. I saw things. I saw a mid-century modern armchair I had found at an estate sale and restored. It was my favorite thing in the room. I took a picture of it. I posted it on Marketplace. Vintage armchair. Excellent condition. $400 firm. It sold in an hour. I looked at my schedule. I called my boss. "I can take the weekend showings for the next month," I said. "I know nobody wants to work Sundays, but I will do it." "Are you sure?" "Claire," he asked, "you have been looking run down." I need the overtime, I said. Put me down for every Sunday until June. I worked. I worked until my feet throbbed and my voice was hoarse from explaining lease terms to prospective tenants. I sold the chair. I sold a designer purse I had bought myself for my 30th birthday. I sold the espresso machine. Lily tried to help. She wanted to sell her bike. No, I said. You keep the bike. You need to ride. But I want to help, she said. You are helping, I said. You are keeping your grades up. That is your contribution. Then, a week later, I came home to find an envelope taped to my door. It wasn't from Marlene. It was plain white. Inside was a stack of cash, $320, and a note. We heard about the banking error. We know how hard Lily worked. We took up a collection on the block. Don't say no. Let her go to Paris. The Millers, the Johnsons, and the Levines. I stood in the hallway and cried. Not the angry tears I had shed over Marlene, but the hot, cleansing tears of gratitude. Marlene had tried to ruin my reputation, but the people who actually knew us, the people who saw Lily walking the dogs and playing with the toddlers, they knew the truth. Or they knew enough. We were going to make it. We were $200 away from being fully funded. 2 weeks before the departure date, Marlene showed up. I was in the driveway, washing my car. I saw her Buick turn the corner. She pulled up to the curb but didn't get out immediately. She checked her mirror. She looked nervous. She stepped out. She looked thinner. Her coat hung loosely on her frame. She walked up the driveway, holding a white envelope. I fixed it, she said. Her voice was rasping. You fixed what? I asked, not turning off the hose. The money, she said. I told you I would pay you back. I told you I just needed time. She held out the envelope. I turned off the water. I wiped my hands on my jeans and took the envelope. Inside was a cashier's check. It was for $4,200. My heart leaped for a second. Had she sold her car? Had she actually liquidated her assets? I looked closer at the check. It wasn't drawn on Marlene's bank. It was drawn on a bank in Florida. And the remitter line didn't say Marlene Wood. It read, Trust Disbursement, Oak Haven Senior Living. Refund of entry deposit. I frowned. What is this, Mom? It is the money, she said quickly. Just take it. Deposit it. It clears everything. We are even. Whose entry deposit is this? I asked. You don't live at Oak Haven. It is a friend's, she said, her eyes shifting away. I helped a friend with some paperwork, and she owed me. She signed the refund over to me. It is perfectly legal. A friend gave you her nursing home deposit refund, I asked. Mom, that is tens of thousands of dollars usually. Why would she give you this? She owed me, Marlene snapped. Why do you always interrogate me? It is a cashier's check. It is as good as gold. Take it and let me see Lily. I want to say goodbye before she goes. I looked at the check again. Oak Haven Senior Living. I knew that name. It was a high-end facility 3 towns over, and I knew Marlene didn't have wealthy friends who handed over 5-figure checks. I can't take this, I said. What? Her face twisted. Are you crazy? It is the money. It is what you wanted. This isn't your money, I said. This is a third-party check. If I deposit this, and this friend claims you stole it, or that she was coerced, the bank will freeze my account. I could be an accessory to fraud. You are being paranoid, she screamed. I am trying to help you. Did you recruit someone from Oak Haven into the circle? I asked. The realization hitting me. Did you get some confused old lady to sign over her housing deposit to invest in your scheme? Marlene's mouth opened and closed. She looked terrified. Give me the check back. She lunged for it. I pulled it back. No, I am keeping this. I am going to call Oak Haven and verify who this belongs to. You give that back, she shrieked. She clawed at my arm. Get off me. I shoved her back. She stumbled but didn't fall. You are ruining my life, she wailed. I need that money to pay the buy-in if I don't pay by Friday. I lose my spot. I lose my status. So it wasn't for Lily, I said, my voice cold as ice. You weren't paying me back. You were using my bank account to launder this check because you can't deposit a third-party check into your own overdrawn account. You wanted me to cash it, give you the cash, and you would give me the repayment out of it. She went silent. The truth hung in the air between us, ugly and undeniable. She had found another victim, probably a vulnerable senior, and she was trying to use me as the mule to process the theft. Go home, Mom, I said. Claire, please, she begged, dropping to her knees on the wet driveway. They are going to kick me out. I promised Brenda. I promised. Go home, I repeated, or I call Sergeant Miller. He has a file on you. It is getting thicker every day. She stared at me. The desperation in her eyes turned to pure hate. She stood up, brushed the dirt off her knees, and walked back to her car. You will regret this, she said. You will die alone. Claire, just like me. She drove away. I stood in the driveway holding the check. I didn't feel triumph. I felt a profound, aching sadness. My mother wasn't just a bad parent. She was a predator who would consume anything her daughter, her granddaughter, a stranger in a nursing home to feed the hole inside her. I walked inside. I put the check in my safe. I would call Oakhaven in the morning. I looked at the calendar on the fridge. Lily's flight was in 10 days. We were going to make it, but we were leaving Marlene behind. And looking at the empty space where a grandmother should have been, I knew that was the only way we would survive. The check Marlene had shoved into my hands felt heavy, not with value, but with threat. It sat in my safe overnight, a piece of paper that promised salvation but smelled like smoke. The next morning, I took it to the bank, not Marlene's bank, and not the one she had tried to drag me into. I went to the main branch of a large national bank where I had an old savings account. I asked to speak to a fraud specialist immediately. I sat in a cubicle with a woman named Mrs. Higgins. She had kind eyes and a steel-trap mind. I slid the check across the desk. My mother gave me this, I said. She claims it is a repayment for a debt she owes my daughter, but the remitter is a nursing home, and the payee is my mother. I suspect it might be complicated. Mrs. Higgins put on her glasses. She examined the check. She typed the routing number into her system. She frowned. Then she picked up her phone and made a call. She spoke in low, clipped tones that I couldn't quite hear, but I heard the words stop payment and Oakhaven. She hung up and looked at me. You were right to be suspicious, Ms. Wood, she said. We have a flag on this account number. It is associated with a series of fraudulent withdrawals involving elderly residents at Oakhaven Senior Living. The account is currently frozen pending an investigation by Adult Protective Services. My blood ran cold. Marlene hadn't just borrowed a check from a friend. She had likely coerced a resident, someone with dementia, someone vulnerable, into signing over a refund check. If I had deposited this into my account, or Lily's account, the bank would have flagged me as the launderer. I would have been the one explaining to the police why I was cashing 5-figure checks from a nursing home I had no connection to. What happens to the check? I asked. I have to confiscate it, Mrs. Higgins said. It is evidence, and I have to file a suspicious activity report. Since you brought it in voluntarily and did not attempt to negotiate it, you are in the clear. But your mother, she is going to have some questions to answer. She always does, I said. I walked out of the bank with empty hands, but I felt a strange sense of relief. The temptation was gone. The easy fix was a trap, and I hadn't stepped in it. But the clock was still ticking. The final payment for the Paris trip was due in 48 hours. I went home and gathered the pile, the cash from the neighbors in the white envelope, $320, the cash from the armchair sale, $400, the money from my extra shifts, $600, and the remainder I put on my credit card. Accepting the interest rate as the price of my daughter's happiness, I drove to the school. I didn't trust the online portal anymore. not after Marlene's attempt to hack it. I wanted to hand the money to a human being. Mrs. Gable was in her office. She looked relieved to see me. "We are all set," she said, stamping the receipt. "Lily is fully paid. She is going to France." I looked at the receipt. It was just a piece of paper, but it represented 3 years of Lily's hard work and 3 months of my own personal hell. "Thank you," I said, "for protecting her spot. She is a good kid, Claire," Mrs. Gable said. "She deserves this." That night, I told Lily we were eating spaghetti, the same meal we had eaten the night I told her the money was gone. "It is paid," I said. "You are confirmed. We have the ticket." I expected her to scream. I expected her to jump up and down, but she didn't. She put her fork down and looked at me with eyes that were too old for her face. "You had to sell the armchair," she said. "I didn't like that chair anyway," I lied. "It hurt my back. And the neighbors gave money," she said. "I saw Mrs. Miller wink at me today." "They love you," I said. "That is how community works. When one person falls, the others catch them." "Grandma didn't catch me," Lily said softly. "She pushed me." "Yes," I admitted. "She did." Lily nodded. She picked up her fork again. "I am going to pay you back, Mom, every cent. When I get a job, I am paying you back." "You don't owe me anything," I said fiercely. "You just owe me a promise. You promised to enjoy Paris. You promised to eat the croissants and look at the art and not think about money for 10 whole days. Deal." "Deal," she whispered. 2 days later, the hurricane made landfall. Marlene realized I hadn't cashed the check. She must have gotten a call from her friend at the nursing home, or maybe Brenda from the circle was breathing down her neck for the buy-in money. She showed up at my office. She didn't come inside. She waited by my car in the parking lot. When I walked out at 5 o'clock, she was pacing, wearing the same red blazer, looking like a woman holding on to sanity by a thread. "Where is the money?" she demanded, rushing at me before I could unlock the door. "The bank took the check," I said calm, leaning against my car door. "It was flagged as fraud. Mom, stolen funds from a nursing home." Marlene's face went gray. She staggered back, clutching her purse. No, they couldn't have. It was a gift. It was theft," I said. "And now there is a federal report attached to it. You need to stay away from Oakhaven." "You ruined it," she screamed, her voice cracking. "You ruined everything I needed that cash to clear the buy-in. Now they are going to kick me out. I will lose my position. I will lose my investment." "You don't have an investment," I shouted back, losing my cool for the first time in weeks. "You have a delusion. You gave them Lily's money, and now you are trying to give them stolen money. When does it stop?" "You don't understand," she sobbed. "I owe people, Claire." It wasn't just Lily. The confession hung in the humid air of the parking lot. "What do you mean?" I asked. Marlene slumped against the car next to us. She looked defeated. "I borrowed from Aunt Linda, $5,000. I told her it was for a roof repair. And Cousin Mike, I took $2,000 from him for a medical procedure. And the neighbors, I borrowed from the sweet old man next door." My stomach turned. "How much? Mom, what is the total?" "I don't know," she wailed. 30,040. I was moving it around, paying one person with the other person's money. But then the circle came, and they promised the payout was 40,000. One check to fix it all. I just needed to get to the center of the lotus. Lily's money was the last chunk I needed to get in. It was the only clean money left. "Clean money," I repeated, horrified. She didn't need it right away. Marlene defended herself weakly. "It was sitting in a jar. I thought I would have the payout before the trip deadline. I was trying to save everyone." "Claire, you weren't saving anyone," I said. "You were burning us to keep yourself warm." I stood up straight. I looked at the woman who had raised me, the woman who was now a stranger with a familiar face. "I am setting a boundary," I said. And this is the last time I will say it. You are done with Lily. You are not allowed to see her. You are not allowed to call her. You are not allowed to come to my house. I am removing you from the school list. I am blocking your number on her phone." "You can't do that," she whispered. "I am her grandmother." "You forfeited that title when you stole her future to pay a con artist," I said. "If you want any relationship with us, any at all, you have to get help, real help. You have to confess to the family. You have to go to the police about the circle. You have to start paying people back with money you actually earn, not money you steal." "I can't tell the family," she gasped. "They will hate me." "They already know something is wrong," I said, "and I am done lying for you." I got in my car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing alone in the parking lot, a small red figure against the gray asphalt. The final confrontation happened on Sunday. It was my Uncle Jerry's birthday barbecue. I hadn't planned to go, but Aunt Linda had texted me, begging me to come, saying family needs to heal. I took Lily. I told her we would stay for 1 hour. I told her she didn't have to hug anyone she didn't want to. We walked into the backyard. The smell of charcoal and barbecue sauce was thick in the air. Everyone was there, Aunt Linda, Cousin Mike, the whole clan, and Marlene. She was sitting in a lawn chair, holding a glass of lemonade. When she saw us, she stood up. She smiled. It was a terrifying, bright smile. "There they are," she announced. "My girl's Lily. Come give Grandma a hug." Lily froze. She looked at me. I stepped in front of her. "No hugs today," I said. The chatter in the yard died down. Aunt Linda looked nervous. "Claire, come on. It is a party." "We are just here to wish Uncle Jerry a happy birthday," I said. Marlene's smile faltered. She looked around at the family. Sensing she was losing the audience, she decided to go on the offensive. "You know," Marlene said loudly, her voice trembling with fake hurt, "I have tried so hard to make peace with you. Claire, I offered to pay for that trip. I offered to help, and you just throw it back in my face. You are so vindictive. Just because I made a small banking error." She was doing it again, spinning the web, trying to make me look like the grudge-holding daughter. I felt a calm settle over me. It was the calm of someone who has brought a flamethrower to a knife fight. "It wasn't a banking error, Mom," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but in the silence of the backyard, it carried, "Oh, here we go." Marlene rolled her eyes. The drama queen. I pulled my phone out. I opened the file I had been keeping. "On March 12th, I read, you entered the credit union and used an old passbook to withdraw $4,200 from Lily's account. The teller confirmed it." "Lies," Marlene hissed. "On April 4th, I continued, you went to the First National Bank and redeemed a Series EE savings bond belonging to Lily. You forged my signature." "I did no such thing." On April 10th, I read, you called Lily's school pretending to be me. You tried to cancel the trip to get a refund check sent to your address. The school recorded the call. The yard was dead silent. Cousin Mike lowered his beer. "And on May 1st, I looked up at her. You tried to give me a cashier's check for $4,000 that was issued to a resident of Oak Haven Nursing Home. A check the bank identified as stolen funds." Marlene looked like she had been slapped. She looked around for support, but nobody was meeting her eyes. "She is lying," Marlene screamed. "She is jealous. She has always been jealous of me. Aunt Linda." I turned to my aunt. "Did Mom borrow $5,000 from you for a roof repair?" Aunt Linda went pale. She looked at Marlene. "Marlene, you told me the roof was leaking. And Mike," I turned to my cousin, "the medical procedure, 2,000. Mike's jaw tightened. "Yeah, she said she needed a specialist." "There was no roof," I said. "There was no specialist. There is only a pyramid scheme called the Abundance Circle. That is where all your money went." Marlene made a sound like a wounded animal. "Stop it. Stop it right now." "It is over, Mom," I said. "The lie is dead." I took Lily's hand. "We are leaving now. Happy birthday, Uncle Jerry." We walked out of the gate. Behind us, I heard the sound of voices rising not at me, but at Marlene. I heard Aunt Linda asking, "Where is my money?" Marlene. I didn't look back. The next day, I was cleaning out the last of the paperwork for the police file when I took one last look at the copy of the redeemed savings bond the bank had given me. I had been so focused on the fact that it was stolen. I hadn't looked closely at the witness line. The bank required a witness signature for the redemption since the beneficiary was a minor. The signature wasn't a bank teller, it was a scrawl. Witness Brenda Lasky. I stared at it. Brenda Lasky, the woman running the abundance circle. Marlene hadn't cashed the bond at the bank alone. She had taken the bond to the circle meeting. Brenda Lasky had witnessed the forgery, probably right there in the hotel conference room, and then they had gone to the bank together to cash it, so Marlene could hand the cash directly to Brenda. It wasn't just a desperate grandmother acting alone. It was organized predation. Brenda was coaching her victims on how to liquidate family assets. I added the document to the police file. I called Sergeant Miller. "I have the link," I said. "Brenda Lasky signed the stolen bond. She is an accessory to the forgery." "Bring it in," Sergeant Miller said. "That changes everything. That ties the scam directly to the theft." The day of the trip arrived with a clear blue sky. The airport terminal was a chaotic sea of teenagers in matching t-shirts, oversized backpacks, and nervous parents. I stood with Lily near the security checkpoint. She was wearing her backpack. She had her passport in a pouch around her neck, hidden under her shirt, a precaution I had insisted on. "You have your card?" I asked. "Yes, Mom." "You have the emergency cash?" "In my sock, yes." "And you have your phone?" "Fully charged." I looked at her. She looked different than she had 3 months ago. She was still my little girl, but the softness around her eyes had hardened into resilience. She knew the world could be sharp, but she also knew she could handle it. "I am going to miss you," I said, feeling the tears prick my eyes. "I will text you every day," she said. She hugged me. It was a tight, fierce hug. She buried her face in my shoulder. "I am proud of you, Mom," she whispered. I pulled back, surprised. "Proud of me? You are the one going to Paris." "No," she said, looking me in the eyes. "You fought for this. You fought Grandma. You fought everyone. You saved it." She let go of my hand. "Au revoir. Au revoir." I waved. I watched her walk through the glass doors. She joined her friends. They were laughing, talking about boys and croissants. For a moment, she was just a kid again. I walked back to the parking garage. The silence of the car felt heavy. It was over. The money was gone. But the debt was paid. Marlene was cut off. The family was in shambles, but the truth was out. I started the car and drove onto the highway. My phone buzzed. I let it go to voicemail. I drove with the windows down, letting the wind whip my hair. I felt lighter than I had in years. I had lost a mother, but I had saved my daughter. It was a trade I would make 1,000 times over. When I pulled into my driveway, I checked the voicemail. It was from a number I didn't recognize. A robotic, overly cheerful female voice. "Hello, this is a message for Claire Wood. We are calling from the disbursement office regarding the Abundance Circle refund program. We see here that your name is listed as a secondary guarantor on the account of Marlene Wood. We need to verify your Social Security number to process the liability release for the outstanding recruitment fees. Please call us back at—" I froze, my hand on the door handle. Secondary guarantor. Marlene hadn't just used my identity to check my credit score. She hadn't just opened a credit card. She had signed me up as the guarantor for her position in the pyramid scheme. She had forged my signature on the contract that said if she failed to recruit, I was liable for the buy-in fees of the people below her. The war wasn't over. It had just moved to a new battlefield. I looked at the phone. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt a cold, sharp clarity. I had the police report number. I had the fraud affidavit. I had the evidence. I deleted the voicemail. I walked into my house, picked up the phone, and dialed Sarah, my attorney. "Sarah, I said when she answered. Don't close the file yet. We have one more monster to kill. Thank you so much for listening to My Daughter Saved $4,200 from 3 years of babysitting for a school trip to France. My mom borrowed it. This story exposes the painful reality of financial abuse within families and how hard it is to break the cycle when the predator is someone you love. I would love to hear your thoughts on Claire's decision to cut her mother off. Was she too harsh? Or was it the only way to protect Lily? And where are you listening from today? Please let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more realistic, high-stakes family dramas, please make sure to subscribe to Revenge Stories. There are many more secrets to uncover. Thank you for your support. And until next time,